All right, everybody. Thank you for joining another App Engine Academy. We are happy to have you with us today. Looks like we have a bunch of people from Brazil today. Awesome, and some people from Germany. So definitely appreciate your attendance and joining us today. We have a slightly different session today, and we're going to be talking about Build Agent and how you can practical ways you can incorporate that into your existing process. Who has heard of Build Agent so far? Any thumbs up if you've seen any content around Build Agent or had a chance to try it, or is Build Agent brand new for everyone today? Looks like a few people. And so we've had lots of coverage around Build Agent. And so we will talk about what it is just very briefly, but the main thing that what we want to do is discuss how to use Build Agent practically in your existing process. Because we've seen as you've probably seen if you've watch some of the other videos. It's awesome. You can create brand new applications very quickly with it. But I think there's some confusion around how this fits into the ecosystem and how you might use Build Agent now and then incorporate into your process. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. So let's get going. I think everything that we talk about today is going to be GA. If there is a question that pops up, we have a couple other people from the App Engine OPM team, Rob Boom and Manali Mahajan, to help answer some questions. But in general, everything that we talk about today is going to be currently available, and if something does pop up that's forward-looking, we'll definitely make sure to make that very clear. Just a little bit of cleaning very quickly. The App Engine Academy is part of the Live on ServiceNow series, and so we would love for you to check out what else is available. And so while this session is focused on application development practices and how to build custom apps on the platform, there's lots of other good content related to other products and other topics on the ServiceNow AI platform. Just a little housekeeping. Please use Q&A. We will, I think we'll try and cover a lot of those in chat, but we will save a little bit of time at the end, and we'll try to get to those questions. And as always, we would appreciate it if you filled out the survey. We want to make this time as useful as possible for you, and so a survey helps us do that. Everyone's busy. And so we just want to make this as high value as we can for you. And so we'd love to hear your feedback. So today, like I said, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about where IDE and Build Agent fits into the big picture from a studio perspective. And we will talk about, and then we'll talk about what Build Agent does. But what we wanted to cover is how you might utilize it in your day-to-day tasks. What we're seeing is it's pretty amazing how you can create a full brand new application, using React, right? A fully custom front end where we're using ServiceNow as the backbone for the application. And so that's awesome. It's a new tool that's available to us, and we do want to talk about where that fits into the big picture. But what we really want to focus on today is more around how you can fit Build Agent into your existing methodology, right? So how can you build the apps that you are creating currently and inject Build Agent into that process to make them more efficient and more useful, and kind of use all of the sort of just general foundational information with the Build Agent LLM, but then also what it knows about development in ServiceNow. And so what we're going to do is, for those of you that have been with us for a while, we started by building a marketing application where we had a very specific workflow, and then added some different some additional business processes to that as well. And so we're going to review that use case, and then we'll show you how you can take that exact business requirement and build an application in many ways exactly the same is how you do it currently, just a lot faster with Build Agent. So a little bit of a different approach, and I think you'll see how powerful it is. One of the really exciting things is that we now have Build Agent available for you on your PDI and your subprod instances. And so if you were to go in and allocate a new PDI, you get Build Agent included, and you get 10 prompts a month. And so you'll see here, though, how you can still really use that to your best advantage. So you don't need a huge amount of prompts to do things very quickly. But what's also really, really exciting is we have an option where you can install the Build Agent trial into one of your subprod instances, and then you will have 25 prompts a month. So great opportunity to use some of the concepts that we have today and start kicking the tires and trying it out. And I think you'll find that we're just starting to scratch the surface with how we might utilize Build Agent to do things better and faster when we're building applications. All right, so what we did is we originally had office hours on the second Wednesday of the month. But with Build Agent and all of the sort of high-end things that it can do, we thought it would make more sense to switch those office hours, at least for now. And what we're running is the Pro Dev Academy on the second Wednesday of the month, so next Wednesday. So we would love to see you there. In the App Engine Academy, we will be using Build Agent, but we're focusing more on, low code tools and traditional build processes. In ProDev, we're going to really drill into Build Agent and also the React architecture and how it works and how we can create kind of really customized full stack applications. So a little bit of a different focus if you're interested in, really pushing the limits of the platform, looking at using engineering concepts on in ServiceNow and really using a lot of full stack concepts. Pro Dev Academies for you. Otherwise, we'd love to see you here too. So both are going to be useful for some of you, and then for many, just one of the two might be a better fit. Okay, so what we really want to just very quickly touch on is that the introduction of IDE and Fluent and Build Agent by no means deprecates or reduces the importance of the existing tools. So even though kind of citizen development or line of business development, where we're blending the access of business knowledge and build capabilities to increase our overall velocity on the platform, that isn't a topic for today. We just at least wanted to help everyone understand where all the tools fit into the big picture, because Build Agent's awesome, IDE is great, but what we still want to do is kind of put sort of the right personas in front of the right tools so they can be most successful based on their build capabilities, but also what they're looking to accomplish in the platform, right? And so we have our simplified tools that are mostly aligned to record producers and request fulfill workflows. In this case, this slide just has Catalog Builder. Obviously, Creator Studio fits into that picture as well. But we want it's still important, and a way to access subject matter expertise or users that really understand, one, what the ServiceNow Platform 2 does, and two, maybe how their department or group can best utilize those capabilities. Great fit for something like Catalog Builder. And then we have ServiceNow Studio. This is still our front door to all of our build capabilities. And I don't know if you guys saw on, I think it was the ServiceNow Dev channel, Andrew Barnes just covered all of the new capabilities for ServiceNow Studio. It's great. So still a good choice. And, this is a forward-looking statement here that in early next year, what we are expecting is Build Agent Plum to ServiceNow Studio. And so that's going to be really valuable in a slightly different way, where what we can do is now have, incremental prompt-based development where we're stating the outcomes that we're looking to achieve on the platform. But then Build Agent can instrument the creation of those using traditional XML database based tools. So I think that's going to be a great fit for a lot of people. But what we have now is this really exciting new tool, ServiceNow IDE. And so it takes a lot of the concepts of the platform and then extends them in a number of different ways. So, one is that, this is a Git first development environment. It was the reason why we have Fluent is one-to-one representation of XML metadata structured in a way where we can fully unlock the capabilities of parallel and concurrent development using Git. That isn't the focus of this session, but we do want to kind of set the stage with IDE. But then also now, what we'll be looking at in some respect today, the ability to create these modern UIs, right? And so to have Build Agent really help us build that, and it's great. But what we want to make very clear is that it's another tool, right? These custom UIs of what we can create, we are going to build one today. Um, it's a way to extend the value of the platform and the reach and connect to where people are. And so there's a number of reasons why we might want to utilize the a fully custom UI that Build Agent can generate. Some of those are to align to a design language of your enterprise or your customer, or to meet a very specific design requirement. Another is a lot of times we see very complicated processes. So one example is when we're connecting to master data in an ERP backend. A lot of times there's just a vast amount of information. The forms need to be dynamic because we have a relationship between like a purchase order and line items. And so, utilizing a custom UI for that can make a lot of sense. And so the great thing is that the way that we can get there is we can use a vibe coding style approach, but we have and so even though we are getting a custom front end, we still have a clear understanding of what's happening on the back end because we're still generating configuration on the ServiceNow platform. And so you know, um, all of these different vibe tools are great. Vibe coding tools are great, but in this particular scenario, one of the value propositions for the combination of Build Agent and IDE is that we have a thinner custom stack, right? So rather than using Cursor or Windsurf or something like that to build a whole net new application that we then have to deploy onto a hyperscaler, what we can do is, even though we're using a vibe coding style of development, we still understand the fact that we're using the ServiceNow data model, we're using ACLs, we have business rules, we're creating, list views, and so it's a good blend of kind of that power and the velocity and customization that we can realize from vibe coding, but we can still, if we understand how all these pieces fit together, operationalize it and utilize it in our everyday build cadence. So again, just to reiterate, even though it's so exciting to sort of have this new tool, it doesn't preclude us from using any of the other ones. All of the other ones, they all still fit together. Even though IDE does primarily use Fluent, what we'll see today is it's still interoperable with traditional platform XML metadata. And so this relationship between the different skill sets, the different types of knowledge, and the different things that these different builder personas are going to be creating is still all there. And so that gets back to part of the power of the platform and all of the single data model and the shared tool set. So if you have seen any of the demos or videos for Build Agent, you've probably seen something like this. Now a siloed application from a front end perspective. We can still connect it back to the data model. We can still connect fulfillers in their traditional experiences to the tables that this front end will interact with because it is ServiceNow. But there's been some confusion about what does this mean? How do we use this for everything? This looks great. What does this how do we understand the relationship between this and the traditional build frameworks or UI frameworks, right? How does this relate to record producers or the service catalog or EC Pro or workspaces? And so that's part of what we want to talk about today because, you know, it's just kind of amazing when you can say, just, create a Minesweeper game, right? And because, we have this incredibly powerful foundational model that's backing Build Agent, it can do it, right? So we now have sort of an enhanced palette for, our imagination and for new use cases. But what we want to be clear on is this doesn't replace traditional applications, and that's what we're going to work on today when we hop into the platform is to use Build Agent for some of the aspects of creating an application, but we're also going to use it in a way where what we get is understandable to us, right? That it's still um, it's still ServiceNow. We still have requesters and fulfillers, and we want to create a situation where we can use a lot of this, but we can support it as well. All right. So just one final comment about this. And this is a good example of the difference between, App Engine Academy and ProDev Academy is, if we look at the scaffolding of those custom React applications, it's a totally different technology stack. And so you can see here that we're using React in a component-based architecture to compose the front end. But then we are still using the platform. So we're calling into the table API. In this case, by default, Build Agent is going to generate business rules. And so what we don't really want is to all of a sudden always go to this architecture. But what we do want is for you to understand how this fits into a tool, for you to increase engagement and meet business demand and really expand value of the ServiceNow platform and what that you are providing to whoever your customers are. So drilling into this stack is more of a topic for the Pro Dev Academy. That's where we'll talk about that. But we just wanted to very briefly mention that it's important to understand that those custom applications, the examples that we showed, are not Service Portal, even though they're UI pages and they can be embedded into the UI 16 view. Supporting it and in understanding what's happening is it's a different technology. So let's just talk about the marketing design request use case and just very quickly review that. And then we're going to hop into the platform and see about how we can use Build Agent and how we can use it to build an application like we always would. Let's see, we have a question about the IDE. I could look at that image that it was React. Are we able to code in other frameworks or backend languages? So the backend language that's going to be ServiceNow, right? So that's going to be Flow Designer. That's going to be JavaScript. So that remains constant. What Build Agent does, it does introduce this concept of BYOF, this bring your own framework for UI. And so you absolutely can use Vue or another framework. Kind of React is the first one that we've really tested a lot with Build Agent. But like I said, it's a foundational model, and so you can use other frameworks as well. Good question, though. Appreciate it. All right. So just very quickly to review the application that we built by hand in previous App Engine Academies, right? We have this marketing design request where a marketing department gets requests for these marketing designs. right? And so this looks like a great opportunity to use the ServiceNow platform because we have our end users that are looking to realize value from a service that's been being provided by the marketing department, and there's things that people need to do. So great use case for ServiceNow. And just in review, if you remember, we talked about all of the different aspects of the platform from a workflow perspective and an automation perspective. And so this part isn't quite as important, but we just wanted to sort of set the stage about how we're going to use Build Agent to create this workflow, and then we're also going to use it to create a few others very quickly. And what's exciting is, what Build Agent provides is both, knowledge about what the marketing industry itself, so we can prompt Build Agent to help us provide some of the elements of the custom data model, but then it can also instrument the build side of it too. So very exciting. And if you recall, for the other application that we built all by hand in ServiceNow Studio, we simplified this process. And like I said, we're not going to. The important thing isn't to demo Flow Designer here. But we do want to talk about how flows fit in with Build Agent because what Build Agent does is it uses Fluent and the representation of all of the different configuration changes that can be performed on the platform. Right now, we don't have a representation of flows. And so Build Agent, because of that, Build Agent can't generate a flow. But we'll talk about how that's okay because what we can do in IDE is round trip between XML-based metadata, in this case, Flow Designer, and all of the Fluent build artifacts that Build Agent's going to generate. So, and it just as a forward-looking statement, we're expecting Flow Designer integration imminently. So we don't want to make comment about the exact timeline, but we are expecting that very soon. All right, and now build time. That was just kind of a quick harbor tour. And so now I'm just going to stop the share and hop into the platform. And let's start building here. All right, and here we have ServiceNow IDE, and this might look familiar to some people. This is based on VS Code. I view that as a huge positive because what we have is a lot of the kind of speed hacks and awesome developer life capabilities of a full-blown IDE. There's a lot of extensions that are loaded into it. This isn't really a conversation today, but what we can also do is use ServiceNow SDK if you wanted to have the same style of development environment running locally on your machine. And so if you really wanted to customize your environment, then that's an opportunity to do a lot of the same things that we're doing here, just minus Build Agent locally on your machine. A lot of our internal engineers do that because they're using things like Husky and just very heavily customized build environments. So this is a great step, though. It's embedded into the platform, and you don't need to worry about configuring it if those things are new to you. But let's get started building. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a workspace, and I'm just going to create a marketing department requests, and or let's say services. It's a little bit unfortunate that VS Code is using this workspace terminology because the first thing a lot of people ask is that doesn't look like a workspace to me, but that is just it isn't a UIB workspace. This is a workspace in ServiceNow. Or I'm sorry, in ID. And you'll see here we have a sort of three panes. The editor pane, our file explorer, and we definitely want to see how this all interacts with source control, and also importantly, build agent. And so what I'm going to do here is I actually have a couple things that I'm just going to copy and paste so everyone doesn't have to watch me type a lot of things. But the big difference is that we're prompting build agent for an outcome here, right? So we know what we want to achieve. We want to create a workspace for our marketing department. We want to create some business processes. We want to enable our requesters to access these business processes and start and view them. So if we look at what we're generating here, we prompted build agent to create an application for the marketing department. We wanted to include a workflow for the marketing design request. We have some additional elements for the fields that we want. You can see here that this is a conversational round trip experience with Build Agent. But you can see, even though I'm prompting on some very specific things that I didn't necessarily have to related to extending the task table and overriding the state field, what we're not doing is we're not defining the different fields that we want in this data model that's going to be specific to this marketing design request. And so this is just a good example of how we can access the amount of knowledge in this foundational model and utilize that to best effect. And so we'll see what fields it comes up with when it generates them. But the nice thing is we can either go in by hand and modify the fields, or because Build Agent is fully round trip, we can also prompt it to make those changes itself. And so let's just give it a minute here. And while we do, I'm just going to give you a little tour of IDE. So you can see here that one of the things that is very different is that we actually have a directory structure that looks like it's an application that we build by hand outside of ServiceNow. And so this is really important from a version control perspective, because one of the values of IDE is that we can now uh, interact with Git, and it's fully mergeable, and so we can connect this to developer sandboxes and introduce parallel development. And that's part of this value proposition of utilizing Fluent now, is that it's not XML, it's not kind of this flat file structure that's convenient for our low code development tools. This is designed for people first. And so that's part of the power of IDE, and one of the differences between it and something like ServiceNow Studio, not so much from a capability or build perspective, but really more as far as the style of development, right? It's code first, and what we can do now is utilize it with Git. And actually, while we're waiting for Build Agent, it'll just take a second. You can see that it's one identifying where it's finding information about what it's building, but then it's also being very verbose about what it's building, so we can understand what it's doing. But what I'm going to do now is hop into version control and initialize repository, right? So we can now start versioning all of our code, and you can see, because we're in an IDE, that we can access the different files according to the business structure and how they're organized. So we can see the fluid representation of the table here. And you can also see that it's overriding the state table in a way that's going to more closely align with the business process. And so that's always a good practice when we're building a tailored workflow, is we have these gates that are more specific to the types of requests that these particular fulfillers are going to be servicing. But we can also see now with Git, we have lots of files that are untracked, right? We can see all these files. And one of my favorite things uh, in IDE is if we hit Control P, we now have fuzzy file matching. So we can very quickly get to, let's see, sample design requests, cancel. This is the problem of opening and editing files while Build Agent is generating it. But so if we were to go here and just go to sample, we could very quickly get to all of the different files. So that's just one good example of kind of the power of this type of development environment is, we kind of get all those the full stack speed hacks. So let's just give it another second and see what it's done so far. So we prompted it to do a bunch of things here. And you can see here it's just about done. It's creating the tables, but we can see that it's created this is the table itself, right? This is the fluid representation of what's going to be in the dictionary. Um, it looks like it's creating some business rules. I didn't prompt it to do that, but that's where it's taking its business knowledge and creating those. And then it's even creating some sample records for us. And so let's approve this and then see what we have so far. All right, so it's going to deploy the application. And again, this is a little bit different than if we were going to be modifying the platform using the low code tools, because what's happening here of our instance. And what we're doing is we're modifying the code and then we're creating a build and deploying it to the instance. And so this is more of like a full stack style model where if we were in ServiceNow Studio, what would be occurring is we'd be effectively modifying the runtime in the context of the runtime, right? We're changing the metadata in the instance. And so this difference is one of the reasons why it's so Git forward and we can perform all the version control. And so while we're waiting for this to finish up, this shouldn't generate any new code. So what I'm going to do here is check all of these changes in. So we're going to track those and then commit them. Say initial commit, right? And so we see here we have a synopsis of everything that's been performed so far. We have, it overrode the state field. We see the scope. We see the primary table. And what we can do now is actually link to the list view. So we can see that, and we're going to have some example tables there. And so we can see that we're starting to build our application, right? And so, even though there's some overhead, this is a demo instance that's pretty slow. There's a little bit of overhead in, the time that it takes for Build Agent to generate the functionality, but it's much quicker, right? Because what we have is it was very intelligent about all of the different fields. Let's go back to the fluent representation of the table, right? And so let's just take a look actually, what do we have here? So we have choices, right? I specified if it's going to be internal or external. We have the project categories, the target audience. So, lots of good information that we can utilize that's been provided by the model. But if we see here, though, this isn't really what we want from a list layout perspective. So what we can also do now is we can prompt Build Agent to improve that. And so you'll see here that I gave it some instruction, but what I'm also relying on is Build Agent to make a decision about which columns to include and then how they should be ordered. And so again, what we're really thinking about is what do we need from a usability standpoint? What is the value that we're going to be providing to our end users? And what's great, again, it's okay if this isn't exactly the decisions that Build Agent it makes isn't exactly what we want, right? Because we can go in and modify the Fluent file directly, or we can prompt the Build Agent to make those changes. And so if we see here, if we go to the list, you can see that this is the order it chose. And so we could easily change that, or we could prompt Build Agent to modify those as well. So let's just wait for a second to build, and we'll get a more intelligently ordered list view. So what have we done so far? Uh, we have an application that we need to build for the marketing department. And so what we did is we took our primary workflow, our primary use case, and utilized Build Agent to make suggestions about, the data model. It generated it, and now we are prompting it to also structure um, the the list layout. And let's see, we have a question here from Megan. If we want to move workflows from simply Gov apps from .NET to ServiceNow, could we do that with this build agent and move source code over? So, that's another platform. And so you wouldn't be able to, there's not going to be a one-to-one mapping between how you build on Simply Gov and how you would do this in ServiceNow. But, what you could certainly do is take the equivalent functionality, describe it in Build Agent, and see how closely that aligns to the capabilities built in SimplyGov. And so, we're seeing that a lot with sort of when people are lifting and shifting applications is, really good opportunity to take a lot of your requirements, right? That maybe when you were interacting with whichever end users, then when you were building that application on the other platform, you have requirements, and you could certainly provide those to Build Agent, and it can help you build those, right? And also, what's great is that if you're transitioning to ServiceNow, then that can really be an accelerator if because you understand the functionality that you want, but it might not be as clear for you as to how you might implement it on the platform. So we see here that it that the layout, and maybe what we also want is to create a UI action where the user can assign this task to themselves. And so, again, this is very standard for on platform. But the nice thing is UI action is JavaScript. You have to understand, what does current mean? You need to understand glide record. You need to know to possibly redirect the request the um, back to the current view. And so what we're thinking about here is not, magical new capabilities that Build Agent can unlock for us that we haven't been able to do on the platform. It's more around, how can we combine the things that we know how to build and use Build Agent to do them more efficiently. And so, we will look at Build Agent in a second to generate a completely different UI for our requesters. And so that's awesome. But what we're doing right now is just, how can we do the things that we would normally do much faster? And so that's a perfect application for Build Agent. It doesn't have to be sort of this incredible new UI that no one has ever seen on the platform before. We still want to think about, how can we provide value in the context of the larger ecosystem, right? How are we going to support this? How are our end users going to get to this? And, we want it sort of as consistent, as easy for them as possible. So let's take a look now at the UI action. And like I said, this probably isn't going to feel like magic to anybody, but UI actions are fiddly, right? They are time consuming and they can be a hassle to debug. And so just a great use case for Build Agent and how we can do it quickly. And also, maybe uh someone who isn't as familiar with JavaScript but understands how the platform works, this is a good opportunity to to utilize Build Agent to simplify your life, right? Just give it another second, and we see here it's given us the capabilities here. And what's cool, it's introduced some logic here, right? So we can see that it introduced some smarts, and let's just try it out. So I'm just going to go in here. You can see here that it applied it, and we see assigned to me. So I'm just going to click on assign to me. And in this case, see, so there's some additional logic that the application implemented. We would probably want the prompt build agent to roll that back, but this did work, right? Because and this is just a demo environment. I'm just logged in as system administrator, so that's what we want. All right. So let's look at another opportunity to use Build Agent here, and we can see. So anyways, we can see that I mentioned that what we have is a round trip capability between Fluent and XML in the platform. And because we were doing things in the platform, it looks like I don't know if you saw those sync pop-ups. It looked like we had some changes. So let's just track those here. So I'm going to commit those. And let's see, we added by accident. And so, while we're doing all of this with Build Agent, we are also, I have some changes that I didn't add, but you don't have to use Git and version control with this, but just a great option, and that's what a lot of people are looking to do now from an enterprise architecture perspective, right? We have it's a good way to protect IP. It's a good way to participate in your enterprise standard CI/CD processes. So lots of people interested in ID and Fluent from that perspective. And if you remember, and this is where it kind of gets more interesting, right? Is this is really kind of starting to save us big chunks of work. Because if for those of you that were on the academies where we built these workflows by hand, we wanted our service that we were providing, but then we also wanted a way for our end users to interact with the marketing department for issues and for any inquiries. And so, this is a pretty significant time savings here now. Like before, maybe they were sort of conveniences, and it was great to have Build Agent do these things on our behalf. It saved us some JavaScript, and we didn't have to think about the initial data model too much. But here, there's a bunch of stuff that's really pretty valuable, right? What we're doing is we're creating some additional workflows here. We're extending the task table, and we're using Build Agent now to think about, what are the different fields that are going to be appropriate for those processes. And so, great time saver and really good option to when you're thinking about agile processes and fail fast, great opportunity to interact with your end users, show them things very quickly that you can then adjust very easily, right? So we're creating some the marketing issue table, and now we're going to create the inquiry table. And so while we're waiting for that, let's just hop into Fluent. And so when you're thinking about this, and we're going to transition in a second to Metadata Explorer and how you can use kind of the more traditional build tools. But when you think about how you might structure utilizing Build Agent and Fluent, what's important to understand here is that these capabilities align to what we're currently supporting in Fluent. Like I said, is a forward-looking statement. The thing that I'm most excited about that we are expecting very soon is flows. But there's a lot of really powerful things here. One of the things that might be particularly important is service portal widgets and automated test framework tests. And so those are just great options to, think about. A lot of times, maybe ATF tests should be done, but everyone has a huge backlog. Those don't get done, and then service portal widgets can require sort of a more specific knowledge around Bootstrap and the old Angular. So great options to generate those. And so let's see when we should just have the tables very quickly here. And then I'm going to do a couple things once we have these. We're a little tight on time, but a couple other things that I wanted to point out that maybe I won't generate here is ACLs and roles, right? And so, there's a huge confusion about, how do roles, how do roles take precedence? How are permissions joined? What do these actually give us from a table record and field level permission standpoint for all of our different users. And so again, a great opportunity to access all of the knowledge within Build Agent. And so that's a good opportunity to generate those as well. So it's looking like, oh yeah. So what's really cool about Build Agent is, sometimes the things that it'll generate might create errors, and so that's what's occurring now. But you can see here that it just has so much intelligence built into it that it can troubleshoot. And I've actually seen Build Agent sort of simplify an application and remove functionality in order to troubleshoot it. It would actually have me go in and click links, and it would provide logging in a browser, and I'd give copy and paste that logging, and Build Agent could use that to further troubleshoot it. But so while we're doing that, let's take a look at Metadata Explorer. And so this is really one of the powerful options here, because what we can do now, yeah, figured it out. That's great. What we can do now is start thinking about combining um, our uh, our traditional tools with what we're doing in Build Agent. And so what it's doing right now, it's round tripping between the Fluent and XML, and we see here that we have all of the different tables, we have the list view configuration, but what we can also do now is, I'm just going to open up the marketing design request. Right. And so, you know, this is how we can work around the flow designer limitation in it not being represented in Fluent right now. And so from a build perspective, that isn't really a big deal, because we can still utilize all of the platform tools and interact with them how we normally would. So, this is the table builder view of a marketing design request. So we didn't have to build this particular application. Particular table. We had Build Agent do it for us, but we can still hop in and create a flow and associate it with the table like we normally did. And we can see that Build Agent is still chugging away. So let's just give this a second to hop up. Yeah, and so, I'm not going to create a flow here. Actually, we're tight on time, and we've covered that a lot. But the important thing is what we're doing now is we're using Build Agent to save us time, to provide some of the industry and business knowledge, but we're still, and you can see it created the two tables. But now we can still utilize it for to create the requests. And we're tight on time. I was going to generate a UI, a fully custom UI for requesters, but I did want to show one other thing very quickly, and then we'll just save a few minutes for questions. Um, so what we can do now is, if we could certainly create a workspace directly in IDE, but what I'm going to do is hop into ServiceNow Studio, because I just like the studio environment more for accessing workspace builder. And so let's just find this marketing application. And again, we can see our tables. And so it's very transparent that this originally started as a Fluent application. But what I'm going to do now here is just create a new file. Let's give it a second. And what I want is to create a user interface, and I'm going to create a workspace. Right. And so I didn't, like I said, we could have created roles with Build Agent, but just I didn't create any roles here. So I'm just going to set that as admin. And you can see here, we already have the marketing design request. Let's add the marketing inquiry. Uh, okay, that is what we want. Let's go to our table. It looks like we might still be syncing a little bit. Is this? So let's just get the whole name, help it out. Oh, looks like we're still syncing between Fluent and the XML metadata, so I will just use that one. But the point is that, while we have created the data model and a lot of the structure using Build Agent, what we can still do now is hook it up to our existing tools. And so what we can do is still think about our different users and how they might get to this information in the standard way. So very supportable way to introduce Build Agent into your existing process. So we've all seen this workspace builder generated workspace before. So let's stop there, I think, rather than we don't have enough time to create the fully custom UI. Let's stop there and see if we have any questions. So feel free to raise your hand if there's something, if you have any questions about anything we showed today or other questions about AppDev. Or maybe Rob and Manali and Amit all answered them all while I was uh, while I was doing the demo. Um, okay. Well, anyone from the App Engine OPM team, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we close? It doesn't look like we have a lot of questions, but if you wanted to add some additional comments or any things that I missed or got wrong, feel free to hop on, or otherwise we'll give you 7 minutes back today. All right, thanks, guys. And please, in the feedback, this is brand new for all of us, right? And so what we're trying to do is make this as useful for you as you can, so as we can. So if there's something that you still have questions on or that we were missing, please add it to the feedback, and we'll try and incorporate it into the next academy. So all right. Well, thanks everyone. So everyone have a good day. And if you want to dive into the React side of it, we'd love to see you at the Pro Dev Academy. Thanks everyone.